This, as far as Exuviance Professional is concerned, as I say, is not considered to be a training. This is very much an introduction because this is a training that takes part over 4 separate parts. It's a series of training that you would need to work with, whether again that be via online, virtual, or through face-to-face workshops or one-to-one training in the future. So please today just consider this to be exactly what it is. This is an introduction to both the brand heritage, the ingredients, and some of those core technologies that we actually are using within the Exuviance Professional brand, and then a very brief look at the regimens that are on offer. But the one thing I did want to actually say to you is anybody who knows and loves Exuviance for many, many years, maybe you've been familiar with it, maybe you've used it previously, or perhaps you've just seen it around and about. I wanted to assure you that the new look of Exuviance is simply that. This is a wonderful rebranding of a very tried and trusted brand that's been around for many, many years now. So it's giving you a wonderful rebranding and a wonderful repackaging, which makes it look even more exclusive. And what it does make it very specifically is exclusive to you. Because the one thing I want to point out before we even go any further is part of the rebrand is ensuring that on all packaging, whether that be on the box or indeed the bottle or tube itself, I want you to know that it actually states on there that this is now, okay, available exclusively via you, the aesthetic professional. We have to offer for you is a complete overview of all of those skin concerns. The regimens go right through from anti-aging to totally correct and reverse the signs of aging, as well as preventing. We have a range of products that are there to work on pigmentation, dyschromias within the skin, as well as your classic sensitivities, your dryness, your oiliness, you know, your blemish prone skins, as well as maintaining a regular normal combination, if that's what we must call it. I mean, what is normal in these days? I think everybody asks that question daily. However, we have that complete scope across the range of products. We also have an amazing collection of body products. This is both for at home as well as that in clinic body peel as well, because we then move on to look at those targeted treatments for the eye area, the neck area, masks, serums, concentrates, all of those lotions and potions that are going to go those specific targeted areas with the professional only products. So this is called Exuviance Professional because it's available only via the aesthetic professional clinic / Medi-Spa salon. However, the actual professional use products are indeed for you to use within your treatment rooms to create medifacials, luxury facials, body treatments, which are going to give wonderful and effective treatments for your clients to have on a regular basis, but to support with their home care products, which is going to give them their everyday fitness regimen for their skin. If you were to consider that your in-clinic treatment is a bit like the gym, then the actual products they're using every day at home, that's their lifestyle. So if they're coming to you and having regular workouts in the skin gym, as it were, having their facials and treatments, whether that be with your beautiful hands and the amazing treatments that you can give, whether it's using advanced treatments, whatever it might happen to be, if they then go home and use junk skincare, they're not really going to get a maintenance out of that, are they? Because at the end of the day, we could go to the gym when we could go to the gym, or we could work out once a week, once a month. We could even be doing it more than that. But unless we are actually changing our day-to-day habits and lifestyle, we're not going to make that much difference. So we need to ensure that we're making those little steps every day, using those relevant cleansers, treatments, to actually look after the concerns of the skin that the client and patient had, the reason why they presented to you in the first place. Why did they give you a call? Why are they looking into having something done? And then you need to protect that skin as well. So fundamentally, all we're looking for is a treatment plan that's going to offer them your in-clinic expertise, whether that be right now, a consultation, which is going to allow them to look after their skin at home and maintain and get their skin in the fittest and healthiest condition that they can, using those fitness trainers, our wonderful core technologies, or a treatment plan, not all, that also then has the in-clinic treatment plan for when we open our doors again and you're able to invite those clients in to your clinics and use your wonderful treatments on them, whether that be through using massage, peels, advanced treatments. We have lots of different things that we can offer you via Exuviance Professional to give that professional treatment. So let's just take a look at what that's about. Exuviance itself is taken from the verb to exuviate, to reveal, to transform. It's bringing forth the new. It's the shedding of the old, which makes this the most perfect word when we're talking about a brand that was brought to us from Neostrata Company, using those core technologies that are actual gold standards within our industry. It came from those founding fathers that actually gave us the wonderful category, if you will, of anti-aging hydroxy acids, glycolic acid being the very first one that they discovered back in 1974. That was during medical research for the actual condition of lamellar ichthyosis. And this was something that then, through continuing to treat the skin, a further studies were carried out, which actually gave clinical proof and evidence that AHA's glycolic acid initially would create this wonderful anti-aging effect on the skin, which is now recognized all around the world. But we've continued not only to license out the use of our patents that we have for AHAs, we've gone on to build on that technology, never sitting still, and being able to further that category into the second and third generations. That proprietary knowledge that we have at Exuviance is really what is giving you the confidence to understand that when we tell you something does something, it really does. Because that 30 plus years of not only Neostrata Company and Exuviance being around, but further to that, prior to that, I should say, having all of that research and development for the medical dermatological causes that they did their initial research for. We now continue in that same vein, ensuring that when we develop any ingredients, any products, it's with that absolute intention of dealing with said condition, whatever that might be, the condition or those generic concerns. Everything working at very effective levels, but also at highly stabilized and safe, efficacious levels as well. We discuss this as being dose level. What that means is, if we have actually proven an ingredient or a blend of ingredients to work on a condition, on skins, and we've had those peer-reviewed white papers and published, we still use that proven dose amount within the products that you can purchase from Shop Beautiful. A lot of the time, what you will find is that companies will have said ingredient within their product, but it won't be at dose value. So although the evidence states that this ingredient does do this, unless they're using the dose value and above, which is usually a very expensive quantity, then they're not actually going to get that result. They're just stating what that ingredient would do or was proven to do at said dose value. We also optimize the pH of all of our ingredients, whether that be in our in-clinic products or whether it be the home care. This way, we know that they're bioavailable. It means they're really going to penetrate into the skin, but with minimal irritation. So that potential of sensitizing your clients' and patients' skin is minimized right from the start, but still using those dose value and efficacious ingredients to do so. But at the same time, when we're actually working with the Exuviance professional products, they're actually using this phrase aesthetically delightful, because that's exactly what they are. What we're using are those wonderful core technologies, but we're adding into those wonderful, delightful ingredients that add to the Exuviance experience. So these would be the botanical derivatives that we use that make the Exuviance products feel and smell much more experiential, much more luxurious. And the way I like to consider this is, you can see me here holding this big mug of coffee. But fundamentally, what is this? This is a delivery system for caffeine, okay? So here's my bottle, here's my tube, and inside of here, I've got my product. But the core active ingredient that I want is the stimulant of caffeine. Well, my husband, what he does is he presses the button and he gets his actual espresso shot. Boom, down it goes, on he goes. That's the core ingredient doing its stuff. Not me. I want to put it in my beautiful mug, my favorite latte mug. I want to add it with my almond milk, which I've frothed up. I want to put in some cinnamon sprinkles as well as some steamy water to give me this wonderful, so I can sit, I can take the aroma, it can warm my hands, and I get the whole experience. That doesn't mean to say that my espresso shot is any different to the one that my husband had this morning. No, it just means that mine is delivered in this wonderful experience. So I still get the same results, it's just delivered in a different manner. Okay, so this is the way that we like to consider it being. So are you up for your espresso, or do you want it to come in a beautiful mug and be all experiential? Oh, I can't speak, I've not had enough of it. Experiential with some cinnamon sprinkles and frothy milk. With that, I need to take a sip. So we go from here to discuss that art of formulation to another level. And that's being able to understand, and really, I am going to hop, skip, and a jump through some of these core technologies, guys, just to give you a little bit of understanding to get your interest and your sort of academic and knowledge juices flowing. Because with all of these ingredients that we are going to be using, we just want to assure you at this point that when we are developing those new ingredients, we're still going through those same clinical gradings that we always have done. Whether that be back in 1974 when it was medical research, whether that be in 1988 with the launch of our original founding brand, and whether that be back more recently with the redevelopment of Exuviance Professional and some of the new exciting products that are coming together. We are still clinically grading all of our products. They are going through a 4-phase testing from concept through to the final testing of this tube, which will have been put through to ensure that the patients and the clients really enjoy using it, as well as getting those delivered results. And we will actually measure various things such as skin thickness. We will use various different tools, which would actually be like a little pincer that would, check. It will measure very, very specifically down to the nanomillimeter that to see how much thickness and density has grown on the skin. We'll also be looking at things like replicas, which, if you can imagine, is like a reverse plasticine. So going onto the skin to see how those lines and wrinkles have been reduced, the pore sizes, that sort of thing. As well as using histology. So ensuring that we're using various different methods to be able to stain the tissues so that we can actually take microscopic parts away and we can look at those to see how they've changed at that DNA, really going into that histology level and picture. Why do I actually express all of this to you? Well, it's again for when you're actually looking through any of our information, when you're looking at posters, when you're on training, whatever it might happen to be, looking on websites. When you see a before and after picture, you can trust in the fact that that has come from a clinical grading, that has come from a peer-reviewed study. If you're looking at what looks like, sometimes they can be like a purple picture. I've got a couple coming up later to example. Sometimes they look purple, and that's colloidal staining, so like an ink that's gone into the tissues, which will then show up the differences between the befores and the afters within that microscopic view of the skin and the tissues themselves. The replicas, the skin thickness, things such as that. It means that we have done all the work which allows you the confidence to say to your clients, this does what it says on the tin. So I'm trying to really help you understand and why you should investigate further, or maybe, invest some time in the full training. This innovation pathway, which can take, sort of in the shortest period of time, at least 18 months of development. Now, that might not seem like a lot of time, guys, but what you need to understand is that is the development of one product with a full-time team. So it will be from that early concept of we need something to treat said condition. So now that's those initial understandings of the skin, and then finding maybe those core ingredients and researching and developing just one ingredient to ensure that's going to work. Then starting to work towards that formula. So those key ingredients, is it that we now need to mix several of those together, or do we just have one actual core that we can then blend with other things to make that work? Then coming into pilot testing and studies. By this time, that's when you've actually got, sort of various different bottles, which will be coded with various different formulas to see how that's going to work, checking for the stability, for the product safety, and getting those clinical studies and peer reviews, white papers signed off to say this really does work. And then the final setting would be when we're actually putting this into manufacture and making sure that we've got the correct tubing or dispenser or whatever it might happen to be, to also test that as well, and the quality control to make sure that that will actually remain with its shelf life for your usage, so that you can know that, unopened, it's got 2 years. Once opened, you've got that classic 6 months. But all of ours actually do have, that wonderful little lid on the back that will tell you. So for example, the gentle cleansing cream, even once it's opened, it'll last 12 months. If this product lasts your client 12 months, they're doing something dreadfully wrong, because they need to have used it every single day to have cleansed their skin. So it's probably going to be more like a 3 to 4 month. It depends on how often they cleanse. Do they use this twice a day? How much do they use? Are they cleansing their face, neck, décolleté? So on and so forth. But the reality of it is, it's not going to go off once they've actually opened it. You're safe to recommend that, because we've tested it to make sure that it is. This is also then coming back to actually show you that even with that on new products that we're working with, what we've actually got here is the roadmap that gives you the history, if you will, and the generations of technologies that the Exuviance and Neostrata company have brought to us. That initial discovery, that seminal paper in 1974, which then brings us right up. You can see here on this particular roadmap, we're talking about 2015. Since then, we've launched various other ingredients, but we can't focus in on those today. So that's just in that short snapshot of time of what we've been able to bring to the industry, not just to our brands, because as already mentioned, we do license some of these ingredients out, although I'm sure it's not done at the dose value that we do. But the 4 core that I really want to point out to you are these fellas right here. We're looking at alpha hydroxy acids to resurface and smooth the skin, polyhydroxy acids to restore and strengthen the skin's barrier, the bionic super-powered polyhydroxy acids, which are going to prevent damage to those cells and preserve them, And then NAG, it's called neoglucosamine. Don't worry, you'll be able to take a screenshot of this actual ingredient coming up in a short moment, which is going to work on plumping and firming the skin, but at the same time, it prevents pigmentation because it's a tyrosinase inhibitor as well. We've got 4 core and a couple more that we really try to ask you to get your head around when we do our technology training. And that's because if you can understand these 4 core technologies and the couple more, it means that you really understand this brand and how it works and how best to recommend it for your clients and for your patients. But let's just take a little romp through a little bit more. So that first generation of AHAs, those alpha hydroxy acids, the one that we focus on, or the ones that we focus in on, guys, are glycolic acid, mandelic acid, and citric acid. You know, these are all natural derivatives, but it reminds me right now to tell you all that everything we do is synthetic. So it is a synthetic copy of nature. Guess what? That means it's 100% safe because it's robust. It's nature that has those little nuances that cause allergies and reactions. So you can safely say that, for example, mandelic acid, which is derived from almonds in nature, ours is a synthetic version, which means that it's 100% safe. But what I would say to you is if you do have a client with a very severe nut allergy, let's say they, carry a pen around with them for very severe reactions, I would still get them to take a photo of the ingredients, whether it's off the internet or off the side of the box or whatever it is, if you were having this product in your salon. And I would get them to be reassured by their doctor. Simple reason. Psycho reactions that will come through. They think they're going to have a reaction, they're worried about that, therefore they wake up in the morning, they've had a reaction. This is a thing. It's absolutely true. It can happen. So although the product itself never caused them that issue, they could have done it themselves by worrying about it. First generation: glycolic acid, mandelic acid, citric acid. Second generation were the polyhydroxy acids. We use one called gluconolactone. Again, this would be a sugar derivative, all from nature, all synthetic now. We don't use anything. We need to know it's 100% safe and that the result it delivers is identical, because that's just as important as well. And then that third generation of the superpowered bionic polyhydroxy acids, lactobionic and maltobionic acid. We're going to have a quick look at these in a moment, but just to say to you, please do not confuse these with lactic acid and malic acid. These are bionic polyhydroxy acids and they work in a different way to lactic and malic. So these hydroxy acids really are very interesting in the way that they work within the skin. Here we just have a diagram, very simply pointing out to you that your alpha hydroxy acids is a single molecule. It's teeny tiny, and that's why we wrap it in an amphoteric complex, which will slowly release it into the skin, minimizing that irritation potential. However, the second generation, those polyhydroxy acids, these are actually slightly larger molecules which have 4 attaching hydroxy molecules on the side of them. So they have more humectancy to them. Therefore, they give more humectancy potential to the skin, more water giving potential to the skin. But they're larger, which means they don't penetrate as quickly, therefore have very far less irritation. Then you have your bionics, the super powered hydroxy acids, which have between 8 and 12 additional molecules, making them much larger, much more humectancy potential, much more water giving potential, therefore even less irritation given to the tissues as well. However, Please don't be fooled by that little fella. Because of all of that, he's a bit like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Because what he's going to do is get deep down into the tissues and really make sure that it's working there for you. Here we just have a simple slide, which most of you will know, really talking to us about where some of those hydroxy acids might come from in nature. So of course, we all know glycolic acid might come from sugarcane. You've got your mandelic acid we've mentioned from almonds, and citric acid being the other big one that we use from citric fruits such as lemons and oranges. But just to reinforce, everything we do is synthetic and safe. Here we can see just what some of these ingredients might do. This is what we call histology, guys. You know when I said to you earlier? So we're looking microscopically at those tissues. On the left, what are we looking at here? We're looking at a sun-damaged skin. This is a study that was part of the AHA study, okay, so glycolic acid. And this was proving how it works on the epidermis from an anti-aging point of view on that sun damage. So when we look at the left-hand side, what do we see here? Well, it's a bit of a mess, really, isn't it? So imagine that cross-section. On the top there, they're like dead leaves, haven't fallen down from a tree during the autumn months. And they're just sitting there on top of that grass, on top of that lawn. And look what they've done. They're really sinking in. They're causing that well, which will get puddled up. It's going to get full of all of litter and goodness knows what else. We can then see underneath there where the white arrow is pointing on the left-hand side. That is where essentially that should be living basal cells. Can you see there? They're a mess. They're dull. They're all different sorts of shapes. There is no organization to that whatsoever. And below that, what you're actually seeing is really just a, sort of a scruffy mess of no moisture whatsoever. Come to the right-hand side, what do we have? We've raked away all of those autumn leaves. So what we have there is a smooth surface, giving you these amazing, much brighter, much more even shaped basal cells. They're a bit like grapes, if you will, if you imagine them full of moisture. So on the left-hand side, they've started to become those raisins, but on the right-hand side, they're wonderfully plump and organized again, bringing back that lovely undulating pattern that you can see there between the darker purple and the pale violet, which is then showing you the lovely moisture and gags underneath. What's the point of this slide? It's telling us that we've actually re-densified the skin. So for anybody who, you might have had clients in the past that have said to you, oh goodness, does glycolic acid thin the skin? I've heard all of these scare stories. Well, yes, it does where we need it to. It gets rid of those dead leaves. It gets rid of the dead skin. But what you've got underneath there are these wonderful, wonderful re-densified and plumped basal cells and a reorganized REAT pattern, making sure that that dermal matrix is improved as well, which is then where we go on to see using AHAs, this would be citric acid now, to work on sun damaged skin, working from the point of view of the elastic fibers within the tissues. So what we've actually got here is that on the left-hand side, sorry, as you're looking at it, you're looking, that they've become stiffened. Imagine like a rotten, an old elastic band that you've just found at the bottom of a drawer somewhere that's dried out. They become stiffened. On the right-hand side, they're stretched out again. A bit like, when we get those of us who have a longer hair and it gets a bit matted and knotted at the back, and then we brush through and those fibers have become elongated once more, giving a little bit of spring back to elastic fibers that previously might have just been, not responding whatsoever. Actually looking at everything that we've just said there, here we have the chemical formula of that molecule. So you can see what we've actually got are just these very simple small molecules. You've got your carbon with the oxygen, the hydroxy forming around there, allowing you to get rid of those dead skin cells, improve that skin thickness, make sure the quality of those elastin fibers comes back, actually helping to stimulate the collagen, therefore the density, those gags, the glycosa. It goes on and on and on. You're probably very aware of what glycolic acid does. This is a real true gold standard ingredient within the industry these days. But as the founding fathers, we really do feel we have the ability and the right to brag about it. Your citric acid, you can see here as we're looking at it, it's the same molecule formula. It's just what we have here is that stronger ability to have the antioxidant effect now. So you're starting to give that chelator effect. So you're making sure you're getting rid of those heavy metals from the skin, which is why citric acid is brilliant for sun damage. Anybody who's managed to turn their skin into leather, you know, permatan, Madge from Benidorm, that kind of person. But what we have here is a pKa, which is very different to the pH, everybody, because the pKa is actually non-movable. That remains the same. We go into this on our training in detail, but it's just a touch stronger than glycolic. So you do find it can irritate just that little bit more. So you do have to be careful and use it where necessary. Here we can see how it actually improves, you know, not only on that side of things, we're looking at how it's stimulating the glycosaminoglycans, those gags, everybody. Here we've got a red staining on the left-hand side. What you're actually looking at there is essentially gags that have dried up, like dry sponges, you know, one of those floor sponges you might have, you've left it under the cupboard and you come to it and you find it and it's hard as a rock, isn't it? There's no moisture in it. Then you actually dip it into water and it plumps itself out, just like your glycosaminoglycans do, the skin's natural sponge to our own moisture. On the right-hand side, what we're actually seeing here is over that 3-month period of twice daily using citric acid, we can see this increase of glycosaminoglycans by 20%, which is incredible to say the least. So that is, again, another reason why when we're worried, or if we're worried at all about AHAs or the use of citric acids, we need not be. All we need to consider is whether the skin is too sensitive to use it primarily and whether we might need to use other ingredients to strengthen that barrier. This is Citrafil, which is our patented version of it, just showing just how much that would actually improve the collagen production within the skin, which is really quite spectacular. You know, it's super significant in the way that it would actually work within the tissues. So again, when we're actually working with Citrafil, we've got something called neocitriate. And then if you're blending that with a collagen, you can see the difference in how that would work. It's quite something. Mandelic acid, taken from almonds, still an alpha hydroxy acid, guys, still that smaller molecule, but one of my favorite alpha hydroxy acids as a lady who's approaching 50, far too quickly for my liking, frankly, because what you've got here is the most wonderful oil soluble alpha hydroxy acid. This is going to be wonderful on anybody suffering from any oily, blemish prone problems. So for a perimenopausal skin, this is incredible because not only is it oil soluble and will deal with those issues, it is the most incredible anti-inflammatory. My mind went completely blank there. The most incredible anti-inflammatory. So it means it's not going to give that added irritation to the skin. It's very cooling and calming, in fact, in the way that it works. So this is why we actually like to favor those 3 particular ingredients. We then move on to our polyhydroxy acids and our bionic acids. Here we start to see the molecular formula there in the way that it is getting larger. And these are the ones that we're taking from corn, from milk, from malt. You're also able to understand that with these, what you're actually getting are incredible ingredients that work on actually rebuilding and restoring the skin's acid mantle, the barrier function. And that is due to the fact that the size of this molecule and the way that it works in a less irritating way, it truly can stay around that surface area, and it loves working within the barrier function to actually help build it and make it stronger. Just reminding you of the sizes of those molecules in the way that they work. The smaller the molecule, it's going to go straight in. It's going to have that irritation. The larger the molecule, it takes longer to get down. Therefore, it's actually going to work within those barriers. Therefore, it means it's best suited for that more sensitized skin, even a rosacea prone skin, a skin that's been sensitized by using irritating products, by wearing masks, by, you know, air conditioning, central heating right now while we're all indoors. All of these things, I think most of us right now need some polyhydroxy acids on our skin due to that just general irritation coming out of winter, being in lockdown, the stress that's added. Here are the perfect ingredients that rebuild that barrier, preventing transepidermal water loss, but also keeping those little baddies out of the skin. Here we again looking at polyhydroxy acid gluconolactone specifically in the way that it works. Barrier repairing, restoring, sealing in that moisture and preventing that further damage from taking place, really working within those tissues. But we also have papers to tell you that these products are also safe to be used alongside of prescriptive and stronger medicines for the skin, such as retinols, azelaic acid, you know, benzoyl peroxides. This is the kind of ingredient that can be used to support those, to take away the irritation and rebuild the barrier when treating those skin conditions. Lactobionic acid, really working on those metal proteinases, building up those gags again and helping to actually work within the skin to clean up the skin cells, preventing those from actually degrading. If we think again of the cells like little grapes, you know, plump and firm, those metal proteinases, the MMP enzymes, they will get into the tissues, they will actually break down the cell's integrity, you know, the skin of that grape, which will then actually deflate them. They'll lose all of their moisture. They will no longer be grapes and they will start to form those raisins and sultanas. I don't know what I would rather be, for sure. Then you've got your maltobionic acid working even more so to inhibit all of that from taking place. So one to clean it all up, one to prevent it from happening even further. So these are really looking after those cells in that deeper manner. Here you're seeing another histology slide as an example of just how it exfoliates the skin. So although we really do sell this to you on the fact that it's cleaning up the cells, look at what it's doing to exfoliate and reorganize the very surface of that stratum corneum and how it's building and working. This, by the way, is a single concept. This isn't a product. This is just that one ingredient at that dosage value doing that at that 8%. 8% is the dose value. 8% is what you find at minimum within our products. Then we move on to actually look at just what they will do for the skin. So people will tend to go, but those PHAs and BHAs, they don't do very much, do they? Not really. You know, your AHAs are your big exfoliators and you need lots of retinols and various different bits and pieces. Well, don't get me wrong. There are times when we add retinol and we use other gold standard ingredients from the industry as well. But this is just showing to you, just look at what this does. You know, we're looking at still gently exfoliating, therefore stimulating cell turnover. We are helping to clarify an even skin tone. We are helping to stimulate the glycosaminoglycans. Therefore, we are actually getting that matrix function working again for collagen and elastin. Therefore, we're plumping and firming the tissues and we're actually creating that humectancy within those gags and the skin as well. They are working against those metals within the skin to actually stop them from rusting up, discoloring discoloration and also, you know, breaking down those healthy cell membranes. We are helping to work and prevent the oils from actually damaging the skin. We are working to actually get a healthy preservation of your elastin, as well as getting them stretching more so. It goes on and on to talk to you about anti-glycation, one of my favorite topics. Sugar is evil. Every biscuit is a wrinkle. So we need to ensure that we're utilizing anti-glycation. Look at it, super powerful at doing this. And then last, but certainly not least, we talk about the barrier building. That's the first and the last thing we discuss on polyhydroxy acids, because it builds your barrier. That is the one to strengthen the skin, to prevent the transepidermal water loss, keep stuff out. But also, if you've got sensitivity, it's the polyhydroxy acids you can actually use to rebuild the tissues to get somebody's skin fit and healthy enough to start using those stronger ingredients like glycolic, mandelic, citric, retinoids, high strength vitamin C, so on and so forth. The fourth core technology, you might remember I said I wanted to hop, skip and a jump through, is something called neoglucosamine. Neoglucosamine, N-acetylglucosamine. We actually call this NAG for short. Here is my short story, which is the perfect screenshot of what it does. You can see here, this is a pinch recoil test that you can see proving the density of the skin. Now, it's just being done with fingers. Of course, we would normally do this with calipers as far as the actual clinical trials will go. But here you can just see an anecdotal, if you will, photograph that shows you and examples it from those trials. But neoglucosamine, NAG for short. Neoglucosamine actually nags your GAGs, your glycosaminoglycans. It nags your GAGs, okay, to stimulate their favorite part, hyaluronic acid. What does hyaluronic acid do? Yes, it plumps and it hydrates the skin. It will actually, those GAGs will flood your natural dermal matrix with that hyaluronic acid, therefore irrigating the skin, redensifying it and plumping it out. But guess what? Because it's irrigating that dermal matrix, what that's going to do for you is it's watering the fibroblast plant. And what does the fibroblast plant grow? You got it, collagen and elastin. Now, with elastin, once that's formed, we know it, but it will water it and bring some stretch back to that. But in the meantime, it's going to stimulate your good collagen. Let's not get into good and bad right now. Just trust me, we've got the tests to know what it's working on. Therefore, this revolumizes, replumps, redensifies the tissues and firms it all up. So it's really getting that mattress from being saggy to being firm, standing up straight and lifting everything to where it needs to be. But what does that say just down there on the right-hand side? Plus, it inhibits tyrosinase. It is such a magical ingredient and it's all ours, okay? So it really works on all of those things. We also have studies that prove how it works on an oily, blemish-prone skin as well. You can see a quite significant improvements. That's all well and good. Let me show you some before and afters as far as these photographs. So this is showing you just how neoglucosamine at dose value will actually improve those blemishes. And that is why we will actually favor neoglucosamine, not only as an anti-aging ingredient, but also within our oily and blemish control ranges too. The couple more that we have are things like amino-fill. Amino-fill, think of it. They just take your raisins and plump them up and make them grapes again. They're really clever little ingredients that will volumize and continue to help you build that matrix again. But the whole point of this story is that Exuviance Professional. Do you remember what we said it meant? Yes, to shed, to reveal, to transform. This truly is going to exuviate the skin layer by layer. We're going to remove those dead skin cells, okay? We're going to resurface the skin using those AHAs. We're then going to stimulate cellular turnover, which in turn is going to make the skin lovely and healthy again. We're going to strengthen the skin's barrier using polyhydroxy acids to actually prevent that dehydration and keep the badness out. We're then going to be able to prevent all of those metal damages and the dehydration and the compromising of the basal cell membranes to ensure they stay plump, therefore ensuring that wonderful, this undulating REAP pattern here is maintained and kept as healthy as possible, so that this dermal matrix, this wonderful area, can be stimulated via those glycosaminoglycans to form that water, which is going to water all of those wonderful fibroblasts and get everything fit and healthy again, ensuring that using all of our core technologies layer by layer, adding in those different areas, adding in ingredients such as the aminofill where necessary, we truly can make a huge difference to your client's skin, both from home care and using them within clinic treatments as well. The in-clinic treatments, you have everything from, your quick express facials to full luxury pampering treatments for face, neck, décolleté, every area of the body you can consider, as well as our professional peeling with AHAs of both glycolic, mandelic, and citric. Then coming in the future, watch this space, there will also be a retinol peel too. Many different ingredients for many different reasons, as mentioned, but also adding in where necessary those industry gold standard ingredients. Your high strength vitamin C, your retinoids, salicylic acid, and low weight topical hyaluronic acid to help hydrate the surface of the skin as well. But coming back to those wonderful 4 core technologies with a couple more that are really going to make a difference within those tissues layer by layer. That is Exuviance Professional, and that is an image of the products on your shelf.